Hey guys, it's Tyler as always. Today I've got something a little different, which I may do a few more of. I've thought about doing knife, sword reviews and things of that nature, but I just don't have a huge collection to be honest, especially since I've moved. But Swordier, a relatively new company out of China, has graciously given me one of their Federschwert to review. This is not sponsored in any way. They just sent the sword to me for free and said, let us know what's about it because we don't really know HEMA and you do. I was like, cool, can do. Now you may have noticed that I don't end up doing a lot of sparring with blunt steel because it is difficult to get. The truth is that I live in a college town and it's difficult to get college students to buy the protection for blunt steel. That being said, I love doing solo training with blunt steel. So let's get into it. Weight is almost exactly 3 pounds at 1,400 grams. Of course, it's going to have some variance from one to the other because they are handmade. You can go to their channel, which I'll link in the description below, to see their stuff. I really like the scalloped hilt. Let me turn my monitor off so, yeah, there we go, less reflection there. I really like the scalloped hilt. What this helps with is, as another blade comes down here, it's just a little harder to get it out as you are winding and twisting your own blade against it. At 3 pounds, it's like right smack dab in the middle, little on the lighter end for feathers. It feels pretty good in the hands. What will determine really how heavy it feels, though, is more the balance. And as you can see, the balance is quite close to where the hilt is. Yeah, like maybe a hand's length away from the cross guard. So it feels very nimble. It's very easy to wind. You know, when I want the tip to move, I don't have to move my hands very much at all to move the tip a lot. Height, I'm 5'10", comes right up to my shoulders, so I would say it's probably like about 4 foot maybe. Perfect length for me. So if you're average Western, American height, it's perfect. It's great for me. Although I think actually the average height shortened a little bit in the past few years. But if you're around, between 5'8" and 6 foot, then it's a great length of sword. Me and a student were complaining about how ridiculously long fetters were starting to get to where they're more like super light great swords, and it leads to a lot of guys just sitting back here at this distance and poking and hand sniping, and not exactly what a lot of the guys were talking about back then. So again, very nimble, plenty of grip to get 2 hands on it with gloves. That's something that irritated me a little bit about some fetter, is that the grips are big enough for you to get 2 hands on without gloves, but as soon as you get gloves on, it's just not really possible. The fitment, really good. I haven't done sparring, so I'm not going to talk too much about the durability with this. And even though I've done demonstration with it, done a little bit of banging it around against some gauntlets and other objects, usually you don't find out how really durable a fetter is until you've been using it for a year or two. So I'll make another video on this, follow up in a year, and tell you guys how it stood up to a bunch of sparring. Continuing with the guard, cross guard, no rattles, almost like I have not been able to get this thing to rattle with reasonable use, having other blades, blunts rather, clang down here decently hard, banging on it. I cannot get it to rattle at all. Excellent fitment. This is just a stamped piece of steel, which is fantastic for a fetter because it helps them keep the cost down, I imagine. That's how the fitment looks. Pretty clean. The grip is just I don't know if it's a cotton or what cloth material it is, but it is very tightly wound. That is also has not been loosening up on me at all as I've been doing my drills. Pommel, we got your classic kind of ball scent stopper pommel here. One of my favorites because it fits in your palm very nicely. That is peened on the end there, which you can just barely see. A square peen there. So this is full tang, very nice, very good. Full tang's basically a necessity. As I said, on some of the other budget range fetters, what we see after about a year of sparring, or sometimes less than that, is that the tang, even though it's full tang, it's a very narrow tang, and that ends up snapping off somewhere inside the handle. So time will tell there. Going down the blade, we've got a nice wide but not super deep fuller going all the way till about there. Very slight distal taper, so it's a little bit thinner at the tip than it is here, and then thickens again for our spatulated tip. I would still want a cover for this, a rubber blunt, or some people just use a bunch of tape it up. Like the length, like the balance, construction feels good. The crossguard could maybe be a little longer, but if you make it much longer than this, then you start getting into issues with it. If I'm wearing gambeson or a padded jacket, you start getting into issues where it catches and it becomes difficult to maneuver there. The main complaint that I have with this so far is the flex. So I'm gonna try to push here, get it to flex. It's quite stiff. It's not quite arming harness sword stiff. That is, for armored fighting, you want a blade that's a bit stiffer, because historically, the swords that they would have used to defeat armor were going to be stiffer, and you can allow the blade to be stiffer if you're in full armored kit. So we can be more accurate and still stay safe because there's more protection. When we're doing Blossfechten, or the really unarmored, light armored fencing just with padded jackets, most tournaments are going to have a kilogram rating flex, and I do not know if this will flex light enough. I need to take it to a tournament organizer who has the tools to test that. But yeah, here you can tell it does flex, but it's pretty difficult for me to flex it. If I thrust with it, I don't know if you can see that little wiggle there. So it is flexible, but I don't know if it's as flexible as I'd like it to be. Now, that doesn't mean you can't spar with it. It just means you have to be very careful about your thrusts. I would definitely recommend not just a padded jacket, but a plastron underneath that, which is just a plastic sort of breastplate that goes on underneath your padded jacket to protect even more against this sort of thing, or to use it with armored fencing. From Swordier's steels, or sharps, sorry, that I've heard about, the durability is one of the high points at this budget range, so this should have no problem getting beat up against armored in an armored context. And I may even test that at Le Campagne du Chateau here in Oklahoma in March. Fingers crossed I've got the funds to go to that and get my armored kit already. So yeah, let's go ahead and just test out some of the different positions, how easy it is to get to them. I have to stand back kind of far. I don't have a ton of room in here. The half sorting feels good, feels nimble. The flex is still in this. Sometimes what you'll notice is if you do half sword with a blade that's already stiff, there's not a ton of flex in it, but as you can see there's actually flex in this last half of the blade. So that's nice. That's because lots are differentially hardened where they've just got the flex at this tip and then the base is super stiff. So if you hold it where they meet, well, you've just stiffened up the tip super hard. Man, there's no way to talk about Hemo without getting into innuendo, huh? But yeah, all of our weird crooked guards, spheric to the head, yup, we can get that. I've been practicing a lot my Krumpau into attacking the center line. Durchwechseln, that is whenever I cut and I bind with the guy, I go under his sword and thrust to the face or the chest. Very easy. Everything's super nimble. It should be very obvious on camera how quick it is for me to move this around. And that is part of why it feels kind of almost dangerous because I can get this moving so fast that I could really feel that if I got carried away, I could piece up somebody that wasn't wearing a lot of protection. So thus far, my only complaint really is it may be a little too hard to spar with light gear. Now, if you trust the other guy and you know that you can spar a little more, at this speed, and maybe just take out thrusts, that's a historical concept too, because historically, fetters would have been, either more on the stiffer end, more on the more flexible end. They didn't really know because they didn't have modern heat treat capabilities. And so Meyer talks a lot about, we didn't really do thrusts because they were too dangerous. So as far as cutting goes, you could do cut only rule sets, piece the guy up here, and he's probably going to be fine as he will be with any other fetter, as long as you're being reasonable with it. We can even do our weird Italian guards. Sorry, I don't really know what this is called, but where I pass this through, I've got posted DB Corno. So yeah, this may be, if your club or the tournaments you go to say this is good, or are allowing a stiffer sort of flex, this is very promising to me. Maybe the new budget killer. Of course, I got it for free, so I'm biased, and I have a sample size of 1, but looks great. Literally, the only thing I would say so far is work on that flex a little bit. If you could somehow get the heat treat to allow more flex without, harming the integrity of the blade. I'm not a smith, so I wouldn't be able to tell you need to use this kind of oil or, this kind of steel here. But if there's any way to do that, that would be my main advice to Swordier. Other than that, I really like it. Thanks. Let me know if you have any other questions. I have some other stuff that I could start reviewing here and there. But yeah, really impressive first impressions. Good job, Swordier. Thanks.